Okay, so I just want to talk about something that I'm noticing with authors these days. And I'm an author myself, so I'm just really conscious of these things. But I've been doing a lot of reading of contemporary authors, and when I say contemporary, I mean authors in the last 5 to 10 years. And I'm noticing that they're taking a lot of leeway with third person omniscient, to the point where I don't even think it's really third person omniscient. It's an odd thing, but what I'm noticing is that in the writing, that they are really hitting you over the head, like really being blatant about expressing what the themes of their novels are. Like they'll just outright tell you what the theme of the novel is, and it's interesting to me because, again, being an author, being a writer myself, so much of what I've been taught, or what I've read in previous books from previous times, is that you really want to try your best to be subtle with themes as far as like expressing them, especially having a narrator express them. You really want those things to come through dialogue. You want them to come through the actual the unfolding of events. You want them to come through, like, you want themes to come through interactions with the characters, interactions with the setting, interactions with the times, like all those different things. But today, what I'm noticing is like authors are really just telling you the themes and having narrators tell you the themes. And I'm not talking about telling as far as telling you what's happening in the plot. There are lots of different types of writing, and lots of different storytelling kind of traditions from different cultures, where they just kind of tell you the story and there's no guessing as to exactly what's going on. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like the showing not telling situation. I'm talking about the precise calling out of themes. And I talk about this in my, actually write about this, I should say, in my newsletter. It's called Writers Are Superstars also. Um, but I write about it and I give specific examples. So I'll also give a specific example here. I actually use two authors who I actually admire and two authors who are popular, so it's easier for people to connect with. But I use RF Kuang and Sally Rooney, and I use Babel and Normal People. And I show some examples. So let me just start off. I'll show the Sally Rooney examples first from Normal People. So here's an example of um, what she writes um, as a narrator, and or what she has a narrator write, or has a narrator express in the novel. So here's the first example right now.
He pitied her in the end, but she also repulsed him. In a way, she feels sorry for him now because he has to live with the fact that he had sex with her of his own free choice, and he liked it.
Okay, and here's a second example again.
Ever since school, he has understood his power over her, how she responds to his look or the touch of his hand, the way her face colors and she goes still as if awaiting some spoken order, his effortless tyranny over someone who seems to other people invulnerable. He has never been able to reconcile himself to the idea of losing this hold over her, like a key to an empty property left available for future use. In fact, he has cultivated it, and he knows he has.
The the first example is a touch more subtle, but in the first example, it's essentially Rooney explaining what I thought was explaining the first portion of the novel, in pretty blatant fashion. Although it is more subtle, it's pretty. I felt like it was pretty obvious what she was trying to say, and what the themes were, because she outright says it. And then the second example is another one. It's a little bit near the end of the novel, and it kind of wraps everything up and tells you exactly what you should take from it, which I felt like was a little bit over the head. And again, I'm a fan. I really enjoyed reading Normal People. And I'll show you an RF Kuang example in a bit. And I loved Babel. So it's not actually a necessarily a criticism on them as authors necessarily. It's an insight. It's something that I'm noticing, where authors are just feeling a lot more comfortable saying, hey, this book is about capitalism. This
Okay, I'm actually going to put the RF Kuang quote here because I forget to reference it specifically, but it goes, "Power did not lie in the tip of a pen. Power did not work against its own interests. Power could only be brought to heel by acts of defiance it could not ignore, with brute, unflinching force, with
they're
violence."
they're just straight up telling you. And again, it's a little bit odd for me as someone who's been reading for a long time, writing for a long time, to kind of see these things expressed in this way. But when I wrote this piece on my newsletter, I got a lot of feedback from readers and from subscribers, where they said that this is actually third person omniscient. And I understand what third person omniscient is, obviously, for sure. And it kind of makes sense to me, but I don't know if this is exactly third person omniscient. I feel like this is a little bit deeper than that. This is not the narrator being so inside a character's head that they could actually express what that character is feeling, right? Almost like they're a character themselves. That's third person omniscient. This is a little slightly different because it's the narrator expressing what the theme of the novel is, not expressing like a thought in a character's mind or something like that. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a slight difference. So that's why I'm not, even though like a lot of the comments in my on my newsletter said that they believe it's third person omniscient. Yeah, I'm gonna have to I'm fighting that back a little bit. Someone did say alt mention also that this is really this type of writing happens a lot in fantasy with world building and stuff like that, you know, where they're just like very kind of blatant with with themes and whatnot because it helps with the world building. I'm not an avid fantasy reader, so I haven't caught that insight yet, but I will start reading more fantasy books because I love research. So I'm going to do it just for research purposes. And I love being able to kind of put culture together with publishing and seeing what happens, you know, and seeing what we get out of it. That's really what Writers Are Superstars is all about. But you tell me, like, you tell me what you're feeling. Do you notice this trend? Is this something that you've seen? Am I going wild out here and just like inventing things? And I don't think I am. Like, especially based on the response I got from the newsletter I wrote, I think a lot of people are feeling this way as well. Like, I got a lot of comments saying, yes, noticed this. I noticed this. I really did notice this. Oh, I didn't. I was feeling something when I was reading, but I didn't know how to express it, and I just expressed it for them. So I do think I'm seeing something and feeling something that's actually happening. What I'm not sure yet because I want to research more thoroughly is if this is like a conscious trend. I did remember watching an RF Kuang interview where somebody asked her about this a little bit, where they asked about being explicit with themes, and she did say something. She did address it, and she said sometimes it's a little bit more. It's not as effective to be subtle, and it's necessary to be blatant. She didn't say it in those exact words. I'm kind of inferring from what she said, but yeah. So she I think it's something that she's conscious of, and if she's conscious of it, then are other authors conscious of it? And if they are conscious of it, why are they doing it? Why do you think that it's so important for them to explicitly state the themes in their novels when prior novels, like in my Writers of Superstars newsletter, what I do is I go back and I read Secret History, right? That book came out in '92. So I go back and read it to see if there are any kind of tells, like if she's telling about, if Donna Tartt is telling the themes, and she is absolutely not. You need to dive deep to figure out what those themes are. And some of them are obvious, obviously, but there are others where you really have to work to find out what the theme is. So yeah, I'm just curious what you think. Is it, have you noticed it? Is this, do you consider this third person omniscient? Are they overdoing third person omniscient? How do you feel? Let me know in the comments, and make sure you subscribe. Don't forget, I always forget to say that.